Before we start, we want to point to the quick survey we have in the show notes. It's super fast to do and will really help us in creating content that's meaningful to you, the listener. Please check it out when you're done listening to this episode. A couple of years ago, I witnessed something I've never forgotten. I was meeting a girlfriend of mine in Toronto's West End and had hopped on the subway downtown to go see her. When I got off the subway that day, my friend texted, "Stuck in traffic." So I sat down in the terminal to kill some time and people watch. A woman wrangled a screaming child. Two teens in full goth made out against a filthy wall. A woman in her 50s just stared into space. Then a man in a wheelchair rolled past me towards the elevator. He stopped and then exploded. Fuck, fuck, fuck. He was livid, screaming, arms flailing. If you know the TTC, you already know why. The elevator was broken. A TTC staffer lumbered over. I braced, hoping he wouldn't say those two cursed words, "calm down." Instead, the man demanded answers. When would the elevator be working again? The staffer didn't know. 3 weeks, 3 months, who knows? It's the TTC. The man wheeled away furious, and I just sat there thinking, now what? Did he miss an appointment, a job interview? Did he give up on plans he was excited for? Because when the world isn't designed for you, when there are no other options, a broken elevator isn't just a nuisance, it's a wall. That moment hit me hard. Because unlike most of us, he couldn't take the stairs or the escalator or walk away. According to the 2022 Canadian Survey on Disability, over 8 million people in Canada over age 15, that's 27% of the population, live with some sort of form of disability. And most live in a world that excludes them. Until that day, I'd never really put myself in the shoes or the wheels of someone living with disability. Ironically, I was already on the board of Realize Canada at the time, but I hadn't felt it. Not like that. Now, as the producer and host of this podcast, I do. In every episode, I'm confronted by just how relentless and invisible the daily barriers are. Episode 1, suicidal ideation. Episode 2, isolation. Episode 3, crippling arthritis. These are the stories of resilience and survival, but also of injustice, of lives shaped by the world saying you can't. So riddle me this. Have you ever pictured yourself disabled? As a kid trying to make friends, a teen navigating dating, rejection, invisibility? What about trying to land a job? Advocate for yourself every single day. Well, today you're going to hear from two remarkable young people who live this and more. Their journeys might just boggle your mind and crack your heart open. I'm Sean Prue, and this is the Realize podcast, nurturing potential, inclusion, and belonging, a space dedicated to exploring the strength, adaptability, and determination of people living with episodic disabilities. So for the past 5 years, Realize Canada has hosted the National Summit on Episodic Disabilities and Employment. And this year, for the first time, we held a special Youth Day edition. Among the powerful stories and panels on disability in the arts, employment, and community, two voices really stood out. You're about to meet the first one, Julie Imede, a passionate advocate, graduate student, and someone who's overcome more by age 21 than many do in a lifetime. Diagnosed with generalized dystonia as a child, she underwent deep brain stimulation surgery and still found the strength to graduate college with honors and pursue her dreams. In our conversation, Julie gets real about the barriers she's faced in education, employment, and dating, and how she's rewriting the narrative of what it means to live with disability. This is a story about stigma, strength, and standing up when the world says sit down. Let's meet Julie.
My name is Julie. I'm 32 years old. When I was born, I was fine. And then at 10 days old, I had the doctor found a hole in my heart that normally closes. So mine didn't close. So at 6 months old, I had heart surgery to close the hole in my heart. And then at 10 years old, I started to limp, and I was diagnosed with generalized dystonia. By 14 years old, I started having my involuntary movements, and they got progressively worse until I got to grade 12, so around 18. And by the time I turned 21, I underwent deep brain stimulation surgery, where there's 2 electrodes in my brain and a battery in my chest, and that's controlling my movements.
That is an awful lot for a young person to go through. Talk to us a little bit about that experience, what it was like.
Sure. So for me, education was so important. After high school, I started in college. However, it was very difficult to sit still due to my dystonia, and I had to take time off for my brain surgery. I was very excited. My parents, however, were terrified. But again, I was 21, an adult. Ultimately, it was my decision, and I'm beyond thankful that I had the surgery because I'm not tremoring. And I finished college with honors in social services. I am currently in my last month at Toronto Metropolitan.
And you got some good news recently.
Yes. So I will be graduating from my bachelor's in June, and I got accepted into York for the master's of social work. So you're never too old to keep learning. Thank you.
You're welcome. Congratulations. You're welcome. Congratulations. What does going through these kinds of experiences, what does that do to you in terms of your character? Right? The really rough experiences, you're a young person going through them. It made you what?
So my dad often says, "You're strong, you're tough." And I feel like my character is to be very stubborn and stay in school. If I get a no, I prove people wrong. And it's really built my character and my confidence to go to university and make amazing friends. I'm so grateful for the friendships I made, the networking and the jobs I've gotten. Just overall great experience.
Now, does the rest of the world that you navigate through, do they see you as tough and strong?
I think at first they see me as young and fragile. A lot of people assume I'm a lot younger than what I am. Again, 32. And I take it as a compliment. It's amazing to look young. However, once they get to know me, they notice I'm a hard worker, I'm dedicated, I'm passionate about disability and mental health awareness, policy reform.
We did a pre-interview and you talked about the challenges that you faced in terms of employment and getting work as a disabled person. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I was younger, I really internalized not gaining the employment as a problem within me. Oh, I'm disabled, or oh, I'm not smart enough. However, going to college, going to university, about to get my master's in September, really helped build my confidence in my academics. And now my lens is shifting from I'm a liability to I'm an asset.
In episode 5 of this podcast, I was in Victoria, BC at an Indigenous Disability and Wellness gathering. And I learned there that many nations see disability as a gift. They don't see it. The idea of disability is a colonial construct. I wonder what you say to that. Do you see disability as a gift?
My mom would definitely say that.
Why would she say that?
I think she's very spiritual. She feels like disabled people are important for God when we die. for me, I find that, yes, we are a gift, but everyone's a gift. We all have different perspectives, and it's important to hear people out.
Tell us about a time when you weren't heard out, when your perspectives weren't acknowledged.
Definitely, if I'll narrow it down.
I was about to say, you came out, I could see the answer coming out of your mouth right away as soon as I asked that question.
Yeah. So I would definitely say going back to high school when I was streamlined into taking essential courses instead of applied or academic, and regardless of me getting A's, I remained in the essential courses and was directed towards going to a vocational program. So I really felt like even though my hard work of getting A's was evident, no one was listening to me when I said I would go to college, except for my loved ones. And if I didn't have that support, I could have ended up down a different path.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people do ignore and discount the perspectives of the abilities of a disabled person? Was it fear?
I think it's a lot of stigma and ignorance. I've had a lot of individuals approach me with very ignorant comments. For example, I use a wheelchair and a cane. There has been times where I was using my wheelchair and I got up, and a gentleman accused me of faking my disability. However, afterwards,
Not really a gentleman.
No, not at all. But I did get very shocked, and I showed him how I walk with a limp, and he apologized. And that's why I'm so motivated and passionate to educate people to eradicate the stigma of disability.
Talk to us a little bit more about stigma and what stigmas you face. You just described an incident with a gentleman, but that wasn't really stigma as much as it was calling you a liar. What kind of other stigmas have you faced?
I think a lot of it has to do within the workplace for me. Every time I received a placement or a job, I noticed employers were underestimating my physical and cognitive abilities. For example, I did a placement where I was given a fake job of writing letters and giving it to the clients, just A, B, C to kind of big check. And I was very bored, to be honest. I advocated for myself to work with the clients more one-on-one. And once I did that, people saw, oh, she's actually capable of doing other tasks. So it's okay.
That must drive you nuts. That must just drive you absolutely nuts that you're put through these challenges and tests for people to finally believe that you're capable.
Definitely. I think again that's why I'm a workaholic. Yeah, I love to work. I've seen my dad working my whole life, owning businesses, and just I always noticed I had to prove myself. In high school, I got the A's. In college, I got the A's. In university, I got the A's. But when I go get a job interview and they say you're not qualified, there's a disconnect between my CV and what they're saying. I'm clearly qualified. what else is going on there?
It seems to me that people don't want to bother hiring people with disabilities because they just don't want to have to deal. Is it as simple as that?
I really think it's a question of accessibility rather than accommodations. If the organization is already accessible, there's less need for individual accommodations. And I really like this concept of universal design. For example, the curb was designed for wheelchair users such as myself. However, everyone uses it, from parents with strollers, people with carts, people with luggages.
You're talking about the way a sidewalk is no longer raised but slopes down and meets the street. That's what you mean, right? And so it was made for people with wheelchairs, but obviously someone on a bike can use it. Someone with, as you said, a stroller with babies in it, people with luggage. What other kinds of universal accommodations do you know about?
So I watch a YouTuber named Molly Burke. She's a blind YouTuber, very impactful. And she's where I learned about universal design. And I was aware that texting was made for people that cannot hear, so they could text. However, now texting has become the norm.
So fascinating. What accommodations do you ask for in the workplace, and have you always received them?
So for me personally, other than ramps and elevators, which should be standard, are really the major accommodations I need, which again, universal design. If there is an elevator or if there are ramps, I wouldn't require that accommodation. But truthfully, I do get worried about disclosing my disabilities during an interview due to the fear of discrimination. And although I do have some invisible disabilities such as anxiety and panic disorder, I can hide that, but I cannot hide using a wheelchair or a cane. So that's why I really want to shift the narrative towards seeing disability as a deficit to seeing disability as an asset to the organization. So now if I don't get a job, I don't get as upset because I know I'm qualified. I know I'm intelligent. They lost an amazing employee.
When you were talking about elevators, it reminded me of something I saw once. I was at a subway stop and the elevator was down and a man came in and he was in a wheelchair, and it meant for him that he couldn't go where he wanted to go. And he was like livid, screaming. I think his frustration made me feel really bad for him because I could go where I was going. He could not. How do you manage that? How do you get around? Because the world isn't cooperative for someone in a wheelchair, obviously.
So what I find interesting is when I'm out with friends, they actually get more angry that the world is not accessible. I'm so used to that I've adapted. So if an elevator is down, I think, okay, what buses are running? How can I get to my destination? So that's worrisome because I've adapted to the normalization that the world isn't made for me. And that's why within my social work practice, I really want to educate employers and society about how this is not only hurting the disability community to be not accessible, but it's hurting our society as a whole. And just to add on that, anyone can become a part of the disability community with old age, with an accident.
That's what one of the speakers here at the Youth Summit said this morning, was that everybody becomes disabled at some point through aging, through, like, if you live a long life, something's going to happen to you. We talked about your work life. Do you mind if we talk about your personal life? So how hard is it to get a date? Are you single? Are you spoken for?
So I am single, 32, but yeah, dating has been another obstacle, struggle, again, due to stigma. I've had a lot of fun interactions online. For example, in my profile, I wrote that I walk with a limp, and an individual, he asked me what happened, and I said, shark bite, and he believed me.
So you're fucking with everybody.
Hey, if I've come to the realization that if a man is gonna judge me for a disability that I don't have that much control over, and not look at me as a whole, then next.
What about friendships? And you said you've got a lot of great friends. Were they easy to make, or do you face stigma? Do people, ignore you or discount you when you could be their next best friend?
So in my younger years, in my 20s, I had a lot of trial and error with finding friends. A lot of people saw me as the tokenistic disabled friend. However, being 32, being in university, I really feel like I've grown as a person, and now I have amazing friends. I'm hoping to convince my dad to have a grad party for all of us in the backyard. So
Dad, let her have it party.
Hopefully, because I made so many friends in my university, so much support.
What do you want the world to know about you, who you are, as it relates to your disability?
So I want them to know that I don't give up. My parents, they raised me as a quitter. In fact, my mom was told that if I survived, I would be a vegetable. And this vegetable got into York University. So I want other disabled people to know that if someone is rude to you, think of it as they are uneducated about disability, and it's up to you whether or not you want to share your story or not. You don't have to. I personally like to educate people, and I don't mind sharing my story. But I really want to change how society views disability, and that includes mental health issues.
Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself. You really are a light, and I've loved talking to you, both the pre-interview that we had, that long chat we had, and right now. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, my first podcast. Very exciting.
You said you always wanted to be on a podcast.
Yes. another bucket.
Check. Julie is proof that grit, humor, and heart can get you through the toughest of circumstances and right into the spaces you were told you didn't belong. From being labeled and sidelined in school to rising above stigma in the workplace and beyond, Julie reminds us that disability is not a deficit, it's a perspective, a strength, and a story worth hearing. Julie, thank you for your courage, your candor, and for letting the Realize podcast be your first ever podcast appearance. We're honored to be on your bucket list. And hey, to Julie's dad, throw that grad party. She's earned it. Next, we're sitting down with the second panelist from Realize's Youth Day, the remarkable Lissa LeClaire, an artist, advocate, and deep thinker living with a complex mix of disabilities, including physical conditions and mental health challenges like OCD, PTSD, ADHD, and more. In this raw and vulnerable conversation, Lissa shares how they've navigated a world that often isn't built for bodies and brains like theirs. From the shame and isolation of childhood to the burnout tipping point that changed everything, to the powerful decision to become their own ally. They open up about disability, identity, art, love, community, and the long, often lonely, but deeply transformative journey of self-acceptance. This is a conversation about pain, yes, but more than that, it's about resilience, reclamation, and the beauty of building a life that truly fits who you are.
My name is Lissa LeClaire. I am 30 years old, and I live with some episodic disabilities, some learning disabilities, and some physical disabilities. And they would be anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, which is autism and ADHD together, as well as PTSD, and learning disabilities like dyslexia, and I've had brain damage in the past, so also dealing with the aftermath of that, and physical disabilities. So I have, it's called Torso Coalition in both my feet, and it's in the bone, so it's really hard for me to be mobile, and it's something that you're born with, and it just kind of progresses throughout life. So I'm also maneuvering life with that too.
It's a lot to live with.
It's a lot to live with. There's a lot going on in my body. Yeah.
So how do you manage it?
Goodness, how do I manage it? I feel like that is definitely an ever-going process. I did not manage it well as a kid. I think, I didn't know a lot what was going on. And unfortunately, a lot of the time when you don't know what's going on or you don't know how to advocate for yourself, or you don't even have the words, a lot of shame gets put on you. And a lot of people assume things for you when you're still just trying to figure it out. And I didn't do well with shame, and I isolated, and I put it on myself. And I think that manifested into the start of my depression also, into adulthood, learning as much as I possibly could about what my disabilities were, how they affected me, how they affect how I exist in this world, has helped me be able to manage it. I'm still very much figuring it out. I feel that will be an ongoing process for the rest of my life, but I do feel like I'm in a place where I'm able to be my own ally more, and I truly think being able to do that inner work has helped me be able to manage all that's going on, because it's hard. It's hard with one of the things, but to have so many different things going on in your body in a world that is not really set up for it, and in a society that doesn't really accept it or have space for it is really hard, and hard to go into the world with that. But I think it also just gives you a very individual perspective that I wouldn't change for the world. So I'm also very grateful for that.
Tell me more about that.
And I wouldn't be who I am without all the stuff that my brain and my body goes through. I don't think I would be able to communicate the same things through art or through writing.
So tell me more then about navigating the world. Let's start with the workplace.
Navigating the workplace. The workplace and the workforce has never been easy for me from a very young age. I was starting with school, obviously. I went through high school and college, and it was very rough and very hard. And in my second year in college, I had to be pulled out of school because my mental health was doing not well at all. And I didn't know at the time, but my physical disabilities were getting a lot worse, and it was taking a very big toll on my mental health. So I had a doctor pull me out of school, and that was terrifying. That was I didn't want to. I know I needed to. I know that my body was like starting to give up, but I was so scared to not have the credits or not have the things behind my name and not be able to be given the same opportunities or be able to be hired, because you need all these things to be hired at a lot of places. And there's just, there's a lot of shame in, there was a lot of shame in that. And there is still. And I think, mm, mm,
I can imagine there's a lot of why me?
yes, there is. There's a lot of why me. There's a lot of why me, and also like I don't also want this to happen to anyone else. And maneuvering the world, seeing not only just yourself, but the community around you or friends or strangers also go through such bias and prejudice as a disabled person is heartbreaking and hard. And like no wonder we come together in community, because sometimes we really get what that feels like, and the opportunities that are taken from us or not even on the table in the first place. There is a lot of why me, and I think that was oddly not a thing right now. I think there's a lot of acceptance that I've been able to do, but at an early age, it was a why me without even knowing what was going on, and a lot of harshness of myself towards my own brain, because I couldn't keep up, or I wasn't doing everything that everyone else is doing, or I was behind my peers. I wasn't reaching the same goals that my peers were in the same amount of time. And that is isolating and scary and heartbreaking and
lonely.
And so lonely. And it's so lonely. And that doesn't help at all. That doesn't help with the depression or the anxiety. I think it absolutely heightens things, and it makes you feel like it's all you. There's a lot of, I would say not only just a why me, but like, is it my fault? Like, did I do something wrong? Did I not go to enough appointments? Did I not get the right healthcare? Did I not work hard enough on this or treat my body well? And like, it was a lot of my like self-shame of like, why what did I do? What did I do to make this happen to me, or have this happen to me, or why can't I keep up? And that is awful. That is an awful place to be. And it was a really hard thing to come out of. And I still think I have that sometimes, but that's a very painful experience. And it is so isolating, even with like other people with disabilities, you still go through your own individual experience, and it is scary and hard and isolating. Yeah.
What about your personal life?
Oh, personal life.
Well, making friends, creating relationships, intimate relationships. What's the effect this has had on those?
Making friends was hard. Making friends still feels hard. Relationships are hard. Intimate relationships were hard. I think a lot of that had to do, again, with not having the education enough about what it is that I was going through, what was going on, or asking for help from healthcare professionals and them not knowing the answers.
You're in a different place now. What was the tipping point?
I think there was I'm not sure if there was a particular time, but I know there was a tipping. No, actually, I would say when the pandemic really started, there was a tipping point of, I have to figure out how to be my own ally or I'm going to die. And that sounds awful and harsh, but it burnout can absolutely go to the point of your body just giving up. And my mental health was really bad and my physical health was really bad. And I was trying to keep up in ways that were not aligned with me and were not suiting me because it was what everyone else was doing and what I was watching everyone else doing. I had to figure out how to be my own ally, and I had been trying to do that for years, but still trying to keep myself at this very much from the ego place, but trying to keep myself at this perfectionist place, because I would say that a lot of people with disabilities have a hard time feeling like they have to be perfect all the time, because when you are seen as less than, you have to do more to be seen.
It's a big burden.
It's a big burden. It is a big burden, not one that we should have to go through at all. I have had a lot of experiences with people, especially in hiring, where one of the questions that they ask when I go into interview is, like, can you prove your competitive edge? And it's like, why do I have to prove I'm here? I'm like, I've gone through an interview process. I'm a human being, trying to do a job like everyone else. And you're only asking disabled people this and that. Like, why do we have to go above and beyond to be able to have the same access or opportunities as other people? And that's not fair. And it creates a really weird mindset, both I think for the other side and for ourselves. And that's been very hard.
What do you know about who you are, who you really are now through living through this, coming out to the side that you're on now?
I really like who I am now, which is very interesting because I probably wouldn't have said that a while ago. I like who I am. I think in becoming my own ally, I discovered my needs. I discovered a lot more of who I am, a lot more of what I could do when I actually set the world up for myself instead of needing to follow everyone else's footsteps. I saw how I could project myself forward into things that I wanted to. I saw how I was able to show up for my people and myself. I saw how I saw the challenges that were coming up and how I was able to address them and the growth that I had worked on, and being able to see that growth throughout the years and being able to see the outcome of that has been a really like beautiful and humbling experience. And yeah, I think again, in becoming my own ally, I had to become my own friend, and I had to learn how to, this world is so harsh to you already, and you don't need that harshness to be coming from inside of yourself. It's at the end of the day, it is just you and yourself. And I think I want to always come from a place of love and deep care. And I have to be able to do that for myself too. And that took a long time, but it was so necessary. And I think that is one of the loveliest things about me. And it is something I really, I'm glad that I continued to go through that journey of.
Someone's listening to this right now and they're relating to the hot mess of what you were, who you were, what you were experiencing. You say what to them?
Don't, this is going to sound cheesy. Don't give up on yourself. Do not give up on yourself. This process is hard. This process is long. This process is ongoing. And don't give up on yourself. You are worthy of being able to exist in this world exactly as you are. This is like not even without job opportunities or like being where your peers at. You just deserve to exist in this world as you are and exactly as you want. And you deserve a place in this world. You deserve to take up space, and that will take time, and that's okay. And you are allowed that time, and you deserve that time. And I'm going to get emotional. You deserve that love from yourself and from the people that you choose to have around you. And keep going forward with what you need. Keep asking for help. Keep advocating for yourself. Keep learning yourself. Keep being your own friend. And don't give up on yourself, because you are worth that. You are so worth that. Yeah.
Has disability been a gift to you in any way?
Yeah. I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but I think there's a very particular perspective that I am able to hold because I live in this world with disabilities, and I lived in this world with disabilities from a very early age also. And I think that allows me to be able to do what I do in the arts and be able to do what I do in how I show up for myself and for others. There's just a whole other world behind the scenes of people when you're not trying to fake it and you're not trying to be professional all the time or be on all the time or be linear all the time, because that's not actually a sustainable thing. I think it is a gift. I think it allows me to be able to see people differently. I think it allows me to be able to see my self differently. I think it allows for so much expansiveness and openness and opportunities in, again, not just like jobs, but like in life and in love and in like all the fluffy, lovely head things. It's hard. It is hard every day. And I wake up every day in pain and wishing sometimes the outcome was different, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I don't think I would be who I am without it. And I really like who I am, and I've worked hard to like who I am. And I think who I am is important in this world. And I think I have something to say as well as every other individual. I think there is only something that you are able to bring to this world that comes from you, and whatever that is needs to be shared because we all need that. We are not all the same, and that's exactly how it should be. I think living in a world with so many different perspectives and so many different narratives and beautiful minds is just what it is to be human, and it is one of the most beautiful things. And I appreciate the disabilities for giving me the space and time to be able to reflect on that and to hold that, and it also is the communities that I've found in that has also been so beautiful, and I am grateful for that too, because we really hold each other. And I think, again, that is just one of the most human things in this world, is to be able to hold yourself and hold each other.
Tell us about art and its role in your life and its intersection with disability.
I've always loved art. I've loved art from a very early age. It was a way of communication for me. It was a way of being able to see the world. And when I was around 7 years old, I was in an accident, and I had brain damage to the left side of my brain. So things that were easy for me, like math and spelling and mapping and some memory stuff, just vanished. And I had to relearn a lot of things, and there was a lot of stuff that didn't come back. And that is hard, and it is still hard, and it still affects me every day. And in that, I moved towards art because it was something that was still there. It was something that I was still able to access. It was something that I was still able to communicate through. It was just so much a part of me, and I wanted to continue to move that forward into life. And it's hard. It is. Art does not give good benefits. Art is a very hard thing to do sustainably, especially when you're creative, right? Like, things are not linear, but it is everything. It is a way of connection. It is universal. It is. I keep saying this, but such a important way to communicate for me, because as you can tell, words are sometimes hard. So being able to communicate through my art is how I am able to also be in this world and exist in this world.
I imagine it's cathartic as well.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I, something I was talking about with someone earlier, it was both a choice and not a choice. I think the way that art is so connected into me, that wasn't a choice. And also, the choice was, I go into the arts because that is the thing that I'm able to hold. I can't be an accountant. I can't be a speller.
Why would you want to be an accountant? No offense to the accountants listening to this. So why?
Their numbers are pretty, but too many. No, but it was also a choice, because I had to go that direction. I had to be able to figure out a life for myself, to be able to pay rent and to have groceries. And going into the arts allowed me, again, not amazingly all the time, but allowed me to do that, because it also just gave me my, oh my goodness, what's it called? It gave me space to be able to exist as I am. It gave me my autonomy. It gave me that openness and expansiveness that I feel would be sometimes crushed in other places. And yeah, it is, yeah.
What do you say to someone listening to this who is disabled, who wants to be where you are now? Because it seems to me like you are happy, relatively. It seems to me that you have a level of confidence and that you like yourself. And a lot of people, disabled or not, would love those things. What do you say?
That is also an ongoing process. There are going to be a lot of days where that is not the reality. There are going to be not even just days. There are sometimes in a day where I like myself in the morning, and then by the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I'm I'm too much for myself. But we are in this world for a short time, and we deserve kindness from ourselves and from others, and we deserve a place at the table, wherever that is, wherever we want to be. And trust yourself. And I know that's so hard. Trust yourself to be able to show up in the ways that you need to. Trust yourself in what you need. Trust yourself in what you don't need.
What's your fondest wish for yourself?
Fondest wish for myself. Ooh. To not give up on myself either. I think, yeah, to not give up on myself either, and to continue to continue in what it is that I need to do, and to be ever growing. I think it is such a gift to have opportunities to continue to learn and to grow in this world, and I would love that to continue for as long as possible.
Finish this sentence. Disability is...
Disability is... Oh, disability is... There's so many words coming to my head. Disability is expansive. Disability is real. Disability is a part of everybody. Disability is not a burden. Disability is honest. Disability is allowed to have space for. Disability is love.
You're such a light. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate your empathy and your kindness, and having patience with me as I also maneuver my first podcast and talking out loud.
You did it. You did great. That was Lissa LeClaire, and what a journey they shared with us. If you've ever felt like the world wasn't made for you, if you've ever been made to feel less than because of how your body or mind moves through the world, I hope this conversation reminded you that you are not alone, and that your existence, exactly as it is worthy of space, love, and community. Lissa reminds us that being your own ally isn't just survival, it's a radical act of self-love. And this story is a powerful testament to what's possible when we stop trying to fit into the world and instead shape the world around what we need. Until next time, take good care of yourself and each other.
Hi, I'm Dana.
Patricia.
Hello, I'm Andre,
And I realized
And I realize
and I realize
that love is love.
We are more fortunate than we know.
good acts don't have to be big acts.
yeah, it has been lovely meeting you today, and I've loved listening to all your previous podcasts, and getting a chance to just be with you and talk with you is one of the best parts of my day, and I really appreciate it.
You're authentic.
I worry sometimes, as I can also with people coming out, as I just want to be able to finish a thought sometimes and hope that what I'm saying is accessible for everybody to understand.
I think sometimes we tell ourselves something about ourselves and then we believe it's true.
Oh, yes.
And I think, like on stage when you were doing the panel
Yes.
on art and disability, you said you need people to be patient with your communication and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yet I'm sitting there from my vantage point, my on an objective vantage point, not knowing you, thinking this is an extremely articulate person
Oh, thank you.
who is making 100% sense.
Oh.
And her thoughts are expansive and smart
Thank you.
and value added.
Thank you.
And so maybe you don't want to tell that story about yourself too much more
You know what?
about any being a poor communicator.
I like-
because you sat here and you've been excellent.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. No, sometimes it is a struggle to see.
Maybe you once were, but
Yeah.
you ain't anymore.
Grown through that.
You're
That's
an
my
employee.
point here.
So dump that story.
Thank you. I appreciate that check-in. That is again, and that's why I love community for this, because it is sometimes really hard to see yourself when you have this version of yourself that you're in and trying to work towards and go through. So I also appreciate that check-in, because that is hard. It is hard to, especially when you're in your head and have anxiety and stuff. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate both you in person and also getting to listen to you on the podcast. It has been a gift to be able to have that. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
The pleasure's not.
Oh, you're great. I'm lucky. So nice to meet you. Are you a hugger? Can I hug you? Is that okay? Amazing. Thank you.
You're so welcome.